The program we're having today is about a very serious topic, and that is the issue of 911 calls endangering people of color. We want to dive into this issue today. Let's watch the video, and then we're gonna bring in our special guest to help us break down this video and why this incident is not unique.
Would you please stop? Sir, I'm asking you to stop.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking a picture and calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African-American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. I'm sorry, I can't hear you either. I'm being threatened by a man in the Ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the Ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
So for those of you who do not know Dr. Rashad, she is the president of Muslim Wellness Foundation. Dr. Rashad, again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start by saying Eid Mubarak to you and just asking, how are you? How's your family? How's your Eid going in these very strange and difficult circumstances?
Right. I mean, I would have to be honest and say that today in particular was very difficult because we're seeing kind of on the heels of the end of Ramadan and Eid, almost a replay of what happened in 2016 with the murder of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. They were also murdered a day apart during Eid al-Fitr that year. And it was, the last day of Eid that the video of George Floyd began to circulate. And around the same time as Amy Cooper in Central Park. And so there's, a way in which celebration is kind of somber, and it sort of highlights that the racism and the context that we're in continues, right? It doesn't sort of pause because we have a celebration, we have a holiday. And so I think that is a reminder that there's always a call to action. There's a long history that's sort of just sitting just beneath the surface of this call, that many African Americans can tell a story that's like Amy Cooper, right? Of someone in the workplace, someone at, any place of business, maybe in a social setting, sort of using that threat of violence, that threat of danger against the Black person to really induce compliance, to induce a sense of fear, and basically says, you don't belong, I have control, I have more power than you, and I can wield this power in a way that could actually be lethal.
Let's look at Christian Cooper's Facebook page. Mr. Cooper tells us that when she didn't follow his directions, he threatened her. He told her he was going to do something she wouldn't like. He then tries to get her dog to come to him by feeding him who knows what, but he carries a pocket full of this bait for just such an intransigence. That means he may do this again.
She was very purposefully, intentionally, conscientiously.
In this instance, there was the level of intentionality.
Doing something incredibly dangerous.
There was no danger. He asked her to call the police twice.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
He has never apologized for his role in getting her fired, losing her dog, and making her the object of hate speech. That's because the Ramble is his black space. He is a board member of the Audubon Society. Christian Cooper will do something you don't like if you don't do what he says, and he prepares for just such an occurrence. Everything CAIR told you about this story is a racist inversion of the truth.
She was like this weird mix of, being politically correct at the same time you're doing something incredibly dangerous. We've got another video of something that happened in Ohio. I'm going to show the one in Minneapolis just because it's remarkable that this individual would do this given the context of what's happening. But we'll show this very brief video posted on Instagram. Take a look.
What'd you say we can't do? I'm Tom Austin. I'm a tenant in the building. Are you? We're all tenants in this building. What office? Don't worry about that. I don't have to say this. What office? So we have an office here, and this guy came accusing us we can't be here. What office are you in? Don't worry about that. We don't have to tell you anything. Go ahead.
Now, you see how quick he went
Yes.
from, right? I mean, the first issue is the questioning them,
Right.
apparently only because they're black. I mean, I don't know what other level of suspicion there was, but how quickly it went to, okay, you're not going to tell me what I want to know. You're not going to submit to me. I'm calling 911. And then actually,
as you guys
doing
can see, we're dealing with racism here. Y'all see this racism here?
I don't know if you can hear what he said. There are a bunch of people here who don't appear to be
Right.
part of. Now, as it turns out, every single one of those men had their own key fobs. They're all tenants in the building. But again, this just highlights this pattern of some white Americans using the police force as their own personal enforcement machine.
Yes.
And I mean, if you even take it back to Emmett Till. So, Dr. Rashad, let me ask you this. You know, as someone who is a mental health expert, this is your specialty.
Mhm.
What is this about? What is going on here?
What the gentleman, Mr. Austin, was doing was saying, my body belongs here, right? You have to prove to me that one, this white space, right, has been sanctioned for you to be here. When we think historically about this idea of sundown towns, right, that there were places that Black folks, particularly in the South, but also in the North, you should not be caught there after sundown, right? Because then you're putting yourself at risk, right? And you should know better, right? I'm using it as quotes. You should know better than to be in a white space when you're not welcome, when you shouldn't be here, particularly when your presence was as in service to a white person, right? Your service is no longer needed. You should go back to where you belong. And so when we see these sort of modern forms of this happening, the white space, the white body supremacy, which results in what's called white collar crime, right? So this idea that white people can call and very quickly, it's almost like a shorthand, right? I can say, right, either indicating through my tone or the way I'm speaking that I'm a white person, right? She didn't say if she was white or not, right?
Yeah.
But that was the implication, that I'm evoking his race in relationship to mine because mine is the standard. And these are acts which, you know, can become lethal. We've seen them become lethal, but also I think is indicative of why there needs to be, as Ibrahim Kendi says, like actively anti-racist, because that impulse and that socialization is really hard to unlearn. And so that's, I think, kind of in short, what's happening in the mentality of a white person that's sort of conjuring not just sort of their present moment, but the power of the history and the privilege that they can leverage, right, in order to quote, put a Black person in their place.
Fascinating. Afaf, please.
The other is the idea of white body supremacy. And that is a concept that is discussed by a social worker who talks extensively about the somatic or the bodily impact of racial trauma. His name is Resmaa Menakem.
Resmaa Menakem is a charlatan who believes whiteness, white supremacy, gets in your body and changes your DNA.
There's some research that's coming out now that's starting to say that traumas actually can be transmitted up to 14 generations epigenetically, right, in the body. And
of course, Resmaa Menakem himself has no background whatsoever in molecular biology, but that's not going to stop him from charging $400 for his services healing you from the white supremacy that is in your body.
I can't fool with white folks. I can't be around you. I need you to leave me alone.
Would you rather have a Richard Spencer in your face or a white progressive?
None of them. White body supremacy has affected my very skeletal structure, has affected my respiratory system, has affected my cardiovascular system, has affected my mama's cardiovascular and her mother's. I mean, because white folks don't even know that we're not even speaking the same embodied language. We're not even speaking the same verbal language. We don't see the world in the same way. So we are not saying the same things.
Anything that either one of you wants to add, or something we didn't talk about that feels really important to name right now, or that you want to get out?
Nah. I think that's it for me. I'm worn out.
Okay. Well then, that's a good reason to stop.
And so I think that becomes a way of trying to process just the onslaught of incidents that are happening, even just this week alone. And I think normalizing that we are all impacted, right? Whether it's directly, indirectly, vicariously, we're witnessing, we're all impacted. And we should recognize and normalize that fact for everyone, and including, I think, our children and youth.
My daughter actually saw this video just recently in social media. So I have, 4 children, and I've had very serious reactions with my kids with regards to viewing these videos, right? And, I've had my 19-year-old literally walk out of the room in a discussion because she's just, she can't fathom all of this happening, and it's just very, very taxing emotionally. And today I had my 11, 12-year-old actually in tears, after understanding what's happening in Minneapolis and then bringing this context into it. And she just couldn't talk. She just said, we'll talk about it later, and I gave her that space. But I was going to go back on how we should be talking to our children about this. It's certainly something that we're grappling with in our home, and something that we've had to bring up time again, and we have different age groups within the household. It's come to the point where really I have to, just like I have to give my own kids tips on if the FBI shows up in our house to question us for something ridiculous, right? This is what you do. I now find myself also giving conversations about matters like this, right? If you find yourself as a bystander witnessing this, what should you do? At least to my older kids, right? And I think these are important conversations.
Heaven protect us from racist sociologists, African studies professors, charlatans, and the Council on American Islamic Relations.